We're going to be talking about the paintbrush tool or the brush tool, and the shortcut is the letter B. It looks like a paintbrush. It's grouped with the pencil tool, the color replacement tool, and the mixer brush tool. In your option bar, you have the option to change the size, the hardness, as well as the brushes. You have categories here that you can go through. Okay, some special brushes. You can also load brushes in. Also, you can go and you can click legacy brushes. Legacy brushes give you more options. Close these groups by clicking those arrows, and you'll see you have a lot more options. Natural brushes, wet brushes. These are more probably if you're into painting. But like I said, you could also import your own brushes, which we will be doing for some of our projects as we move on. Okay, so those are your different types of brushes. Your size adjusts the little paint like dots that you're gonna see. I'm gonna undo. I'm gonna make it larger so you can see. I'm using my right bracket key to make my brush bigger. So this is what I mean by the sizes bigger or smaller. Okay, you also have the option to change the hardness, so I'm going to bump this up to 100 so you can see the difference of the same brush. These are the same brushes. This brush and this brush are the same, but one is with a soft brush and one with a hard brush. So by changing that, you'll notice that the harder brush, it's very solid, whereas the soft brush has a blurred effect. So this is great when you're trying to blend things together, and this goes for other tools as well, like the clone stamp tool. When you have your settings set to soft, it's a lot easier to create like a blended effect. Okay, you also have the option to change your blending mode here, and this would be for the paintbrush only, not for your layers. For your layers, you would go and you would change it here. Okay, I'm going to change the color. Now, most brushes are going to use the foreground color. Again, the foreground color is this one on top. Some brushes, if they have a multiple effect, like there was a leaf brush, I'm not sure if it's still loaded in there, but that brush would dip into the background color. So if you had a different background color, it would paint both of them at the same time and kind of go back and forth. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to change this to screen and see if we have I'm gonna try to change this a few times. Here you go. So because it was black, it was a little hard to see, but you can see I'm creating a different effect by having this as vivid light. We can try hard mix. So depending on what the colors you're layering are, that will change the way they look. So you can see I'm just playing around with the different modes. So you can see all my brushes. Basically, every time you layer the color on top of each other with one of these, it's going to look differently to each other. That's what the blending mode stands for. Then we have opacity. So again, I'm going to just do a brush like this, and then I'm going to do opacity. Opacity changes how see-through it is. So basically like that. Okay, when you're using an opacity under 100, anytime you go over that same line, it will start getting darker. As you can see here, so I'm going over that same spot. Everything's getting darker on that spot, and as you go on, you'll see it more and more if you keep on layering it. And that's about it for the brush tool. So you have the option to change your types of brushes. Now, something else to just keep in mind, the pencil tool will work very similar to the paintbrush tool. It's usually a lot thinner. You can make your brush thicker, but usually it's basically supposed to work like a pencil. The idea is that it works like a pencil, so you can still use the brush options, but when you're using the pencil, and you would want to use it for thinner strokes, thinner and smaller details, whereas the brush tool, it's usually if you want to have more of a painting effect. Okay, and you'll also notice there's a little couple other, let's just go back to this one, a few less options in your option bar here. So some differences. Another coloring option I'm going to just show you is the paint bucket tool. So if you go here, it's grouped with the gradient tool. This will work based on your color that you have here in your foreground. You can also choose for a pattern. Pattern actually has different patterns, so I'll make a new layer, and there you go, you have some leaves, and then you can just paint on top of it with going back to paintbrush. Okay, remember I have my brush set to that other setting, so that's why you see it turning this way. And now I have a whole new design. So it's just layering and playing around with the layering. Okay, I'm gonna delete that, add a new layer, go back to the paint bucket. So the paint buckets, for the most part, you're just adding color to whatever you have on the layer. It's gonna spread to the entire layer. If you have a selection made, and I'm gonna briefly just say selections are basically creating an isolation on your screen. If we haven't already spoken about isolations, we will. If we have already spoken about selections and making isolations, then this is just a little example. So I made a selection, and basically when you have a selection made and you add color with the paint bucket, it's going to limit you to that selection. Okay, again, it depends on if we've spoken about this or not, on your understanding. If we haven't, we will moving forward. Okay, hope that wasn't too confusing. Okay, so we're going to be, for this activity, we're going to be doing activity 10, the brush tool. So I'm going to end this video here, and I'm going to start up on a second video so you can watch these separately if you need to.